So it is a time to welcome all dear participants, fellows, students. It's a very special day in our country, 15th September. No, it is our Engineers Day. And on this occasion, our today's speaker is from US, but she's actually from the whole globe. She's representing IEEE, and IEEE is in global society. So we're very happy and welcome Susan Cathy Land, the president of and CEO of IEEE. So I'm not taking much time because it is early morning for her and she's ready for this presentation. So the first welcome address will be given by our president of this academy, Professor Indranil Manna.
Well, thank you, Debatosh, and once more, good morning to Ms. Susan Cathy Land, and good evening to all my colleagues of INAE, and in particular, colleagues from INAE Kolkata Chapter. So, Ms. Land, let me first tell you, Debatosh did mention that September 15th is celebrated in India as the Engineers' Day. This is primarily to honor and remind ourselves of the important contributions made by an engineer who actually made a lot of difference to the country's various infrastructure planning, in particular towards irrigation, water management, creation of dams and reservoirs, and also various other infrastructural organization. This gentleman named Mr. M. Visheshwaraya was born on 15 September 1860. So 161 years ago. And he lived quite a long life. He died in 1962 at the age of 101. And not only he lived long, he made a huge difference, as I said. So he was quite a renowned and distinguished engineer. Much of his contributions happened during the British India period when India was not independent. But the British government actually honored him with knighthood, and the Academy of Sciences, Bangalore, made him a fellow of the Indian Academy of Sciences. This particular academy was created by the famous physicist and Nobel laureate C.V. Raman. Visheshwaraya came from the state of Karnataka, and he was also made the Diwan, or the so-called Prime Minister, or Chief Minister, I don't know, or Minister-in-Chief of that particular state. Incidentally, he was also made Minister-in-Chief of the state of Hyderabad. Now, Mysore and Hyderabad were the states during the British period as independent states or territories. So those places had kings, and those kings made him the minister, the chief minister, the minister of state, or something like that, because he was the first one to actually implement a lot of engineering projects of very large scale. In fact, two of the biggest, or possibly the biggest reservoirs of the country, called the Krishna Raja Sagar Dam in a place called Mysore, very close to Bangalore, was constructed in his design. Similarly, he created another major reservoir in the state of Maharashtra. And I came to know that the place where I live in this very state, he also created another reservoir which served the water supply to the steel plant created by the Tatas. So the Tata Iron and Steel Company was also indebted to him for his design of the reservoir, which is now called Dimna Lake. Visheshwaraya also, so his contributions to pre-independent India is remembered, and Government of India after independence honored him with the highest civilian award of the country called Bharat Ratna, the jewel of the country. So we all admire and respect him, and this very day is actually celebrated to remind the engineering community about our role and responsibility towards the country. So it certainly augurs well that you, as the IEEE President and CEO, is addressing us on a very important topic. And I understand you're going to talk about your own evolution as a leader, as a technologist, an engineer, how it happened over the years and how you could actually flourish as a professional. So we certainly would like to hear your story and learn from you. But I'm more happy because of another reason, that Indian National Academy of Engineering, by virtue of being its president now, I actually should tell you and my colleagues who are present and listening that this is the only engineering academy of the country. So though we have 3 science academies, but there's only 1 engineering academy. It happens to be the youngest, was founded on 20th April 1987. So we have 10 engineering sections, which covers all domains of engineering, starting from mechanical, civil, all the traditional branches of engineering. And section 10 is called interdisciplinary engineering. So anything that we cannot fit in the first 9, we fit in the last one. Electrical and electronics are 2 different sections, section 5 and section 6. Shivaji Chakravarti belongs to section 5, one of our vice presidents, and Debatosh belongs to section 6. Professor Shankarpal belongs to section 2, the computer science, and so on and so forth. So we have 867 fellows who are elected fellows from within the country. And we draw our fellows from 3 different segments: the ones who are serving in academia, the ones who are working in R&D organizations in the country, and finally, the ones who are practicing engineers and leaders in various engineering industries. We also have 87 fellows who are elected from foreign countries. So there we not only wish to elect someone who has made a difference and is very distinguished by his or her own right in that profession, but also the ones who have contributed towards engineering in India, engineering and technology in India. INAE happens to be a member of the Council of Academies of Engineering and Technological Sciences, the international body of all the engineering academies. I'm told that there are 30 countries which are members of CATES. And so besides being a member, we pursue certain active collaborations with some of the countries, including the USA. In fact, I incidentally led a team to the INAE, National Academy of Engineering, in Washington, D.C. some years ago. And President of INAE, the then President of INAE, Dan Mott, paid us a visit with his team in 2015. We have similar collaborations with South Korea, with Japan, with France, with Germany, UK, and several other countries. So recently, I was told that Calcutta chapter is taking a special initiative, and in fact, Shivaji Chakravarti, who is one of the vice presidents, also took the lead in forging some collaboration with the IEEE sections in India. And I'm not sure what exactly the current status is, but it is very heartening that not the IEEE chapters, but the boss of IEEE Global, or the main wing of IEEE, is today speaking to us. So we are extremely honored that you have agreed to address us today on this very important day for all of us. And certainly we look forward to listen to you and also we may hope that someday in future we possibly can forge a better platform for interaction and collaboration. So thank you very much and welcome to this particular event. And as I said, we look forward to listening to you. Over to you, Debatosh.
Including opening some possibilities with IEEE, or rather the collaboration together between between IEEE and INAE. So we'll start this talk, but before that, I just request our Kolkata chapter's president. Susan, we have a few chapters that is distributed in different cities of the country. So Kolkata chapter is one of them of INAE. So the president, Professor Bhargav Bhattacharya, is here, is around. So Professor Bhattacharya, would you please address?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Professor Bhargav Bhattacharya, please.
Yes. Good morning, Susan, and good evening to distinguished panelists and IEEE fellows, guest students, whoever is attending this seminar, this webinar. And it's really our great pleasure today that to welcome you all. This special lecture by Susan Cathy Land, which is organized by INAE Kolkata Chapter. Professor Manna already told about activities of INAE and the significance of the Engineers Day. And although INAE its headquarters is located in New Delhi, it has several local chapters which are in different parts of the country. And they are formed with INAE fellows who were resident or work in that region. So from time to time, we organize different events like organizing seminars, conferences, then outreach programs, and so on. And in particular, we celebrate annually two events. One is National Science Day, that is on 28th of February to mark the discovery of Raman effect due to C.V. Raman. And today is the Engineers Day to celebrate the birth anniversary of Sir M. Viswesvaraya. So today we have a wonderful coincidence, So this is Engineers Day, and this is being organized by Indian National Academy of Engineering Kolkata Chapter, and also our speaker is IEEE President, and IEEE happens to be the world's largest professional organization of electrical and electronics engineers. So it's a wonderful coincidence today, and we look forward to hearing Susan's experience. And also before that, this whole event has been organized by Debatosh, our local chapter secretary, who single-handedly has taken the responsibility of contacting our distinguished speaker, and as well as coordinating with the INAE headquarters for organizing the entire. Thank you, Debatosh, once again. So let me now ask our Vice President, Professor Shivaji Chakraborty, to introduce the speaker, and we look forward to hearing to you, Susan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Bhattacharya. So, Professor Chakraborty, please.
Well, thank you very much. And at the very outset, warm greetings to all the participants and panelists. I will not take much time. As you can see already flashed on the screen is a very brief introduction of our speaker today. But I'll just take the liberty of spending a couple of seconds because I am also involved in IEEE as its former chair of IEEE Kolkata section and later on former chair of IEEE India Council. So I'll just like to say that IEEE Kolkata section was formed in 1978. And our section has won many laurels from IEEE over the years. We organized the IEEE Region 10 meeting in Kolkata in 2012. And a very significant matter I would like to say that there are only 4 IEEE milestones in India so far, and out of which 3 are in Kolkata. 2 milestones have been dedicated in 2012. And the third one will be dedicated in December 2021. And we are all expecting probably that our IEEE president might be taking part in that program. We are looking forward to that. And I think I don't need to go into reading this text altogether. Participants, everybody can see it. I hope Susan won't mind if I don't read it. But you can already see that how long Susan has served in IEEE in different capabilities in technical activities board and particularly in the standards. And she is an accomplished leader and technologist. So we are waiting for her discourse today. So I would straight away go and request Susan to take over the floor.
You should see my slides.
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay.
It is showing.
All right.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So I do want to say it's an honor and a privilege to be with you today, and I greatly appreciate the invitation to speak. And so I'm going to be talking about, as was previously mentioned, people have asked me, I think they're always curious about people who are leading organizations, about, how did you get to where you are? What was your journey like? But I'm also going to be sharing some information about IEEE as an organization. So it's sort of a integrated discussion. So I will be talking about my professional journey, my history working in government, in U.S. government and industry, the benefits I've derived from my long relationship with IEEE. I'm going to talk about some of my experiences in the field of computer science and software engineering from the perspective of my background, which is heavily defense industry, the U.S. defense industry complex, and how IEEE had a direct impact on my professional career. You often hear about how IEEE provides benefits to people if they're in academia, but you don't often hear this from people who have worked in industry in the United States or industry in other places in the globe. Or people that work in the defense industry. So they've had this relationship with IEEE has had a direct impact on my professional career and an impact for the partnership with the companies I've worked for. So I think it's important to talk about. I strongly believe that personal and leadership development is a personal journey. It's a lifelong journey. Any leadership ability that we have is a sum of the activities and challenges we experience, the opportunities we take, the goals we set, and it's never too late. You're never too old. Your career is never too set to take advantages of the resources that are available to enhance your skill set and change your career course or take your career to the next level. I've had a wonderful career. I'm very fortunate. I don't think I would change a thing, even some of the bumps along the way. And I hope you'll take away from this talk that I'm giving the joy that I've had from a career well spent and the opportunities that are available from IEEE that I share with you today. So I think a lot about the way I title presentations or what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to talk about the journey, right? So a journey is traveling from one place to another, taking a rather long time, passing from one stage to another. So that's really kind of sums up sort of my career, taking a rather long time. I'm in my late 50s. Looking back, it's been a journey, and I don't think I would have arrived where I am today by accident without some effort. I've made some good choices, and these included aligning early with IEEE as I described. So here's an overview of what I'm going to discuss. I'm going to talk about IEEE, my career path, why IEEE, and then I remember when I was a young professional, I saw people who had achieved some sort of career achievement or technical status. And when I was just starting out, I was just trying to simply meet weekly programming goals. I started out as a programmer, and I thought reaching those heights, I would see somebody like a senior vice president in the company. And I just thought that it would be unattainable for me. And I hope that by describing my professional journey and my IEEE journey, And the difference that IEEE made, my partnership with IEEE made for me professionally, might provide some insight and maybe a little bit of inspiration and encouragement. So as I talk about this topic, I would ask people to think about where you are today, your personal goals. I believe in goal setting. Potential, also, if you're a senior leader in a corporation, potential corporate benefits, and where you personally might want to be one day and how IEEE might help you. I'm sharing my path through IEEE to where I am today as president and CEO, so that you'll see where I began my journey, and how, where to maybe you can create some analogies. Where are you and where might you end up one day? I want to share with you how IEEE influenced my personal journey, about the impact IEEE had on my career. And I would not be where I am today if it had not been for my accidental early encounter with this wonderful organization of technical professionals. And that's what I want to share with you, how I met IEEE and the difference it made in who I ultimately became. So what is IEEE? So as you heard earlier, IEEE is the largest technical professional organization in the world. It's a technical nonprofit who can trace its roots to 1884. And it's been the driving force in organizing technical communities, fostering these communities of technologists, and disseminating cutting-edge technical information, driving technical advancements that have improved the lives of citizens for decades. IEEE was founded in 1963 with the merger of two technical societies, the Institute of Radio Engineers, founded in 1912, and the American Institute of Electrical Engineers, founded in 1884. So some of the founding members included Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, and their spirit of innovation continues to drive IEEE membership. So today, IEEE is headquartered in New York City and boasts just over 400,000 members and a student membership of over 124,000. So its mission is advancing technological innovation for the excellence and benefit of humanity. And so many don't realize that IEEE is more than electrical engineering. So I'm a software engineer, and IEEE serves all of those working in technology and is designed to serve all technical professionals. All aspects of electrical and electronic and computing fields, and all related areas of science and technology. And additionally, to become a member, you don't have to have a college degree. In recent years, IEEE is positioned now more than ever to act as a mentor to those working in these fields. So with the required experience, people can join IEEE without college degrees, and IEEE is there to help and support all those who want to become more active participants in their professions. So although IEEE is headquartered in the United States, it's truly a global organization. And I use this slide to show how IEEE is divided into 10 regions and show the potential impact with the global populations that we might have in these associated regions. And it's really amazing if you think about it. And we're really having a significant impact in regions 8, 9, and 10 with significant growth in membership in those regions. So who am I, right? So you saw that first slide with the wonderful and very gracious introduction, but this is sort of an overview of my career and a snapshot, and I'll talk about some of these positions in more detail in the role that IEEE played, but part of who I am, part of who we all are, is as the direct result of my environment, past and present. So understanding how your environment and how your past drives your success or relates to who you are is very important. So as I described before, my background is defense-centric. I spent my career supporting some program or project associated with the Department of Defense. So, and you could see some of these. My first job, not my first job, but my first sort of real job was working at Pacific Missile Test Center in California. And this was very early in the 1980s, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So I want to frame my professional time frame a bit. I was born in the early 1960s, and computer science and software engineering as academic fields were really unknown. They weren't really taught in many universities. The computing science landscape for women in the 1960s and 70s was vastly different from that in the 1980s, which was when I graduated from college in 1984. So if you saw the movie Hidden Figures about the NASA women who were hired to be human computers, their jobs were to calculate complex math equations by hand. So that's really sort of what women were used for. And so incidentally, one of my first mentors at Point Mugu was a human computer. So there were two women we worked in this lab on the beach, and I was one of them, and I was hired to be a computer systems programmer, and she was the other woman, and she was a human computer, a mathematician. As I stated, computer science as a degree program was not offered in many colleges. In fact, the year I graduated from the University of Georgia was the year they established their computer science department. So I did not have the opportunity to obtain a computer science degree. And all I really remember about computers from the University of Georgia was they had a computer engineering, some classes that were offered. And there were people that would come walking as the bus would drive by the computer engineering course where they were offered. You would see people walking out of the labs with huge stacks of key punch card decks. And that was about as close as I got to computers, and all I wanted to have anything to do with them. Women were really not in engineering, especially at the University of Georgia. You were sort of pushed into fields like education, nursing, home economics. So that's really what people were encouraged to do if you were a female. So looking back and given, sort of the legacy of women in engineering or in math, the biggest question for me is why or how did I end up in computer science and programming? I didn't know anyone, male or female, in the field. I had no mentors. And the examples from early computing were really not that attractive. But in the early 1980s, right, 1984, and the 1990s, computer science really lost some of its exclusivity and newness, and employers were looking to hire anyone who knew anything about computers and could program. It was the wild, wild west of computing, and I found myself in the field. The biggest challenges were not gender-based, but rather just trying to keep up with the changing technical landscape. And it was really a wonderful and exciting time. The field lost some of its exclusivity, barriers were removed. And by the time I came into the field, the key punch was gone, thank goodness. And I never even heard the term key punch girl when I started programming. Programming was not a group activity, it was an individual product. And employers were really desperate to hire. So, in fact, in 1985, that was really the peak of women in computer science as programmers, because employers were looking to hire anybody who could program, and people were being hired based on their ability. And in the United States, they were hired based on their ability to accomplish the work. So, so here's an example of my timeline, right, to give you another perspective. So, and I know people will either say, wow, you're really old, or, oh, you're really young. I always get that, but depends on your perspective. But so when I was in the first grade in Athens, Georgia, this is relating to women in their place, sort of in my history, know where you come from. But in the South, in the United States, in the 1960s, women really did not go to college. I mean, in my family, there were 3 women that I had as role models, 2 aunts and my mother, and they were the first women in my family to go to college. So I did have that example. But they obtained an art degree, library science degree, and a nursing degree, right? Now, I'm not being critical. I'm just telling you what kind of degrees were available. So in 1960s, Virginia Tech went co-ed, and in 1962, the first African-American woman graduated from UGA Law, right? So I was born in 1963. So we were dealing with issues of integration, segregation for both people of color and for women. When I was in second grade was when they integrated in our schools for people of color. So I was fortunate. I grew up colorblind because we were integrated, and also there were definitely more opportunities afforded to women. So in 1981, I graduated from high school, and that was when the IBM PC was introduced, right? So we had personal computers. I graduated from Georgia, University of Georgia. Again, the first year they offered a computer science program. And this was when you saw the peak of women in computer science nationally in the United States. Fortunately for me, it was also when the Macintosh was introduced, and I'll talk about this in a moment. And I was lucky. I was waiting on my husband. I got married when I was 20, had graduated from college when I was 20, and found myself waiting on my husband to finish graduate school at the University of Georgia. And I got a job in the Department of Genetics at the University of Georgia waiting on him. And while I was there, they asked me if I understood how to operate an IBM mainframe computer. And I said, sure, because I needed the job. I could type. And I figured out this IBM mainframe system. And that is what I parlayed into my first programming job. I programmed some rudimentary programming to do these giant genetic table layouts for their grant proposals. So I parlayed that job into my first job at Point Mugu. And that's a picture of a Drosophila melanogaster, a fruit fly, which I'll never forget because I had to type that a billion times when I was doing their grant proposals. So, I really intuitively understood how computers worked, and that's the first time I really realized it. So following marriage, we moved to California to support my husband's job. And again, I was able to parlay my experience into an introductory job at Pacific Missile Test Center. Now, they did not have a job description. This is how new computer science was. They had no job description or GS series for computer systems programmer or computer specialist. I had to take a job as a GS3 clerk. They wanted me in the lab. They knew I understood computers, so I took a job as a GS3 clerk for 30 days, wrote my own position description for a computer systems programmer, and then moved into that job. And then 30 days later, wrote a job as a computer specialist because what they really needed was a systems manager for the lab. And this was for the Navy. And the Navy in the United States tends to be pretty progressive. So I was very fortunate. And so I was a computer systems manager at Point Mugu for the Standard Missile Lab. And in that position, I really pretty much got to do what I wanted, and I took tons of training, and then went back to school, and it was a really great thing. But it was during this job that I figured out that this Macintosh system was a pretty neat computer, that it was great for design, that it would be great for all of us in the lab and the engineers. I figured out a way around the Navy procurement system, and I ordered Macintosh computers for all the engineers and myself in the lab. However, the systems were really, really buggy, and there was no community or user support. So I started a federally based Macintosh users group to fill the information gap in my own time. And to provide some context, this was before the internet. There was the ARPANET, which was the DoD kind of internet. But it only had limited subscribers, right? And also we didn't have widely disseminated email. We were on Sperry email. They had internal trusted email delivery, but we still relied heavily on copiers, mimeograph copiers, and snail mail delivery for the delivery of important information. So, I was making mimeograph copies of these newsletters. You can see an example of the newsletter on the left, and that's why it looks so strange, because it was a mimeograph copy. And then I was using DoD internal distribution, right? You had these brown envelopes and that you tied them with a string. And so, but at the peak of the users group, I had over 5,000 members across DoD components, like from the Pentagon, all over different DoD installations across the globe. So I'm busy supporting, my day job, and then doing this in off-duty time with my permission from my boss. And then I get a call from the commander of the base, who's an admiral. His secretary calls in to me directly, not my boss, me directly, and says the commander wants to see me to discuss this. She says he understands you are operating this users group, and that you have been publishing a newsletter, and that you have a significant number of people that are on distribution, and he wants to see a list of all the members, a copy of your charter, and some example newsletters that you've been distributing. And I said, okay. And I want you in his office at 2:00 this afternoon. So I hung up the phone, and this was before the internet, right? So I couldn't Google what a charter was. And I hung up the phone, and I ran to the lab next door, and I asked the engineers next door, I said, what's a charter? And so I quickly produced a charter, got my boss to sign off on it, and then went to see the admiral and printed out I had the membership roster, had some sample newsletters. And then he, went into his office, and typically with any senior officer, you get like 5 minutes. So he looked at my materials, didn't really say anything, and then he just said, you're dismissed. And I thought, well, he's military. I don't know if he can really fire me. And I was 21, 21 or 22. And so he, a couple days later, I get like one of those inter-office DOD things, but it was green. It wasn't pink. But I thought, well, I went into the other lab, and I opened it up. I didn't want to be alone. And so what you see on the screen is this letter of appreciation I got from the commander for that activity. And so, I always tell everybody, this is what's wrong with me, that I got this I got something early in my career that reinforced a lifelong habit of taking chances and leaning forward, of asking for forgiveness rather than permission. I tell my current bosses this, which I don't think they seem to mind too badly. So from moving from California, we moved to Florida after living in California for about 8 years. And I was provided with my first hardcore programming job with 46 Test Wing at Eglin Air Force Base. And at 46 Test Wing, at the time, supported a big, initially one product, which was flight performance modules, but then expanded. I don't know if under my leadership but to a complete suite of products, which supported pilots in multiple aircraft, computer-aided flight mission planning software. So I was responsible for product development and gradually the oversight of teams of developers. The only problem was that the teams, the programmers, right, we were moving from individual programming to team programming. And this was also the advent of CMM, which became capability maturity model, which became capability maturity model integration, and ISO 9000 and all of those different maturity models. But the problem was, in this, DoD realized this, is they were losing, not able to meet schedules or budget because people didn't understand engineering processes or software engineering, right, as applied to software product development. So, and a big part of this was, although computer science was being taught in a lot of universities, engineering fundamentals were not being applied to software programming or software product development. So we were getting programmers who did not understand requirements development, software design, verification, validation, and most importantly, there was a huge disconnect between those individuals that were bidding proposals and the reality of what it would take to get a product developed. So, and this led to serious dysfunction in the teaming development, right, environment. Folks had to work tons of hours. It was just a terrible time, really, to be a programmer. So I looked for help, and where I found help during this time was IEEE in the Software and Systems Engineering Standards. that they were developing, they were leading, they continued to lead in this area. And they had standards and they also had guidance, guidebooks that really provided, sometimes the standards tend to be esoteric and the guidance really provided practical industry guidance on to support product development teams. So I used these guides to train my teams. I used these guides to train my managers and customers. They really provided paragraph by paragraph, step by step on how to do software engineering. So that's where I met IEEE. One thing I found out was that IEEE and the Standards Association, the Computer Society, folks that were working on it were going to discontinue the very important guides that I was using, really leveraging. So I didn't know what to do. I was very frustrated. And so I reached out to a member. I found out that there were these people in IEEE called IEEE Fellows. And so I found this IEEE Fellow within my company. And he said that if you don't like what IEEE is doing, you can go to this conference that these IEEE standards folks from the Computer Society are putting on, and you can present a paper or a presentation and tell them what you think. And at the time, I thought, well, IEEE is like full of, it's a very insular. They don't care what I have to say. They're never going to listen to me. And but I did. I took his advice and I presented material to the International Software and Systems Engineering Standards Symposium, right? Sounds very lofty. And they accepted my paper. And so then I went and presented and I was terrified. And, I was this whippersnapper. I think I was about 34 at the time going, and that's very young to go and talk to all these venerated standards folks. I mean, it was folks like Dick Thayer and Dick Fraley and just some of the big movers and shakers in software engineering standards. And I told them that they were wrong in getting rid of their standards guides, that's what industry practitioners really needed. But instead of kicking me out, they asked me to stick around and make their standards better. So I've been there ever since. So I guess what I would try to convey here is that if you see a problem, try to address it. And when offered an opportunity to contribute to the solution, take it. Because I didn't just walk away from IEEE then, which I guess was a very good thing for me and hopefully for IEEE. On this slide, you'll also see that I went further than that. They did discontinue the guides. And so what I was able to do with this IEEE, I got permission from IEEE Standards Association. I worked with some very venerated co-authors, and we were able to basically reproduce the guides, but we went a step further and as applied to different process models, right? So what people really cared about at the time, and still today, the books fortunately are still selling. I need to update them. I don't have time. But as applying the standards to, if you care about like CMMI, or if you care about ISO 9001 or Lean Six Sigma, you can use what are basically the standards for software engineering, ISO, IEEE standard for software engineering, and help you define what your process should look like, for software engineering process should look like. So that's what we did. My next big role was with something called America's Army. My career, I spent, as I said, mostly it is a defense project, but this was a massive multiplayer online game. And I was asked to come in and for the role of production planner because of my reputation in fixing broken programs and keeping programs on track and delivering products. And you'll have to understand that this was a broken program. They had not been able to really deliver any of their releases. They were delivering patches after patch after patch. And then what they wanted to deliver was this thing called Overmatch 2.7. And that's what I was brought in to try to deliver. So when I was brought in, they showed me the requirements. They were on a single notebook page of paper. I do a talk about this sort of experience that I was responsible for. So they had the requirements on a single page of notebook paper. They really had an unrealistic schedule. And so they brought me in, and I negotiated, basically fixed things, the fixer, and then negotiated a contract with the colonel who was in charge of the program. And we delivered this, and when it released, we were in the top 10 with like World of Warcraft and those other types of online games. So it was a big success. So now I find myself with the Missile Defense Agency. I'm responsible for the product development. I was responsible for product development, 2 spirals. One was 8.2-1, where I was the chief engineer. I was brought in to re-architect a major new spiral for C2BMC. C2BMC is what connects the sensors to the shooters, right? So the missiles to the radars. It's all the algorithms, the networks, basically all the intelligence behind missile defense. And 821 was it was a 1.2 billion 5-year effort, and we delivered that. And then 823, I was the program manager, and we delivered that as well. Now I'm sort of doing a startup, which is foreign military sales for C2BMC, which is a new program office. So how did IEEE influence my career and personal goals? And I can tell you without question that the technical information that I gained from IEEE Computer Society and IEEE Standards Association throughout through my volunteer work placed me in front of my colleagues. I was promoted earlier. I got better assignments, better raises, and it's really that simple. Employers recognized when I went above and beyond and brought the excellence of IEEE into their organization. You know, I could say, this is the way we should go to fix this broken process, and this is why. And IEEE made me a better manager. My soft skills, my people skills are where they are today because of the practice I had over the course of many years of committee and IEEE meetings. IEEE provided me with a safe environment to make mistakes, to practice, and eventually work out all the kinks in my management techniques. Additionally, the technology and consensus standards that I brought into the companies I worked for elevated the technologies and products that we were and are developing. So this is just sort of a snapshot, a short period of my career that shows how my career sort of shot up as I was getting involved with IEEE. So, you know, my first involvement was with the conference that I mentioned, and I was a programming team lead, and then I was asked to be a publicity chair. I started leading larger teams. Now, I was going back to the companies that I work for, and I was letting them know, here's what I'm doing with IEEE. Here's some information from IEEE. Here's what we should do because IEEE says so, right? It's a two-way. You have to be responsible and communicate back and let your employers know what you're doing. But I was a standards working group chair. I was leading multiple teams, doing some business development. I was secretary of the Software Engineering Standards Committee. I was a section manager of a small section, chair, you know, of the Software Engineering Standards Committee at the larger section, VP of Computer Society Standards. I authored the text, VP of Computer Society Conferences. I was a Northrop Grumman Fellow in the IT sector, tech director of Huntsville Task Operations. Now that's just a short snapshot, right? There are other things, you know, as I elevated up, more and more responsibility. But the important thing is employers see that you're having increasing responsibility in like a nonprofit or an association. And then they're like, well, we should leverage that, or we should give them more responsibility in our organization, right? If they're a leader there, they can be a leader here. So I was fortunate to be elected to serve 2 terms on the IEEE Board of Directors. The corporate structure of IEEE breaks the organization down into 6 boards. There's numerous committees, all of which report ultimately to the Board of Directors. And the Computer Society fits under the Technical Activities Operating Unit. And there's 10, as I mentioned before, 10 technical activities has 10 divisions, and membership in geographic activities has 10 regions. And these regional directors and division directors all have a seat on the board of directors. So there's lots of moving parts, lots of responsibility for everybody that's an officer within IEEE, and they're all to be commended. If you know a volunteer anywhere within IEEE structure, thank them for their service and try to support them as they execute their responsibilities. So why IEEE? You all heard I came through IEEE through the Standards Association through a happy accident. And the IEEE Standards Association is the leading consensus building organization that nurtures, develops, and advances global technologies through its standards. And what makes our environment unique and of value to individuals and corporate standards through individual and corporate standards membership is that IEEE standards development fully adheres to World Trade Organization principles for international standards organization. You know, the SA brings together a broad range of individuals and organizations from a wide range of technical and geographic points of origin to facilitate standards development and standards-related collaboration. And through the collaboration with thought leaders, which include IEEE members and non-members in more than 160 countries, it demands consensus agreement and promotes innovation. IEEE standards development enables the creation and expansion of international markets to help protect health and public safety. So, as I mentioned, IEEE is one of the leading producers of standards in the world. And as the world becomes more integrated, there is a growing need for standards that help with this connectivity. On this slide, you'll see just a few of the more well-known standards, and there are many more standards that I have not referenced. As you can see on the slide, that there are over 1,100 active new and revised standards, and there are over 600 standards projects under development at any one given time. You know, it's important to understand that participation in any of the number of available IEEE standards working groups is free. So many people think that you have to add the Standards Association, you know, $35 membership to participate in standards activities. I was actually, and we always push people to become IEEE members. So I was actually a volunteer with the IEEE for 3 years. I was not a member. I worked in standards. I was not a member of IEEE or the Standards Association. I was a volunteer in a working group working on a standard. And then when I wanted to ballot on the standard, right? You can work in a working group for free, volunteer. But if you want to ballot on the standard that you're working on, you have to join IEEE and the Standards Association. So many people don't realize that. There's many ways to participate in IEEE and join and be active in our communities, and you don't have to be a member. So although I did join my journey, start my journey with standards, I continue to support standards. I transitioned early to one of the societies, the Computer Society. IEEE supports 46 technical societies. And as I mentioned earlier, IEEE's field of interest is very, very broad, and it's reflected here by the technical societies. You can see that there's the Power and Energy Society, the Computing and Software, Communications, Biomedical Engineering, Transportation, Aerospace Systems, and Consumer Electronics are just a few. So the TAB societies and councils are a great way to be engaged, to volunteer and stay connected. And these are an additional, you join IEEE and then you add these onto your membership. Some are very inexpensive and some are pretty significant add-on cost, but they're all worthwhile. So while the societies represent more technical areas of interest, IEEE technical councils work together to, the societies band together to cover broad areas of technology, right? So like RFID, nano systems, Council, and these span disciplines. So if you're seeking career advancement or need additional research and trend insights into emerging technologies, IEEE can help in this area. These cost nothing to add to an IEEE membership, and they're a great way to get involved in IEEE because this is just a nuance, but these have similar leadership structures as the societies do. So it's a great way to get engaged with other volunteers if you're interested in participating in IEEE governance or leadership or that kind of thing. But they're free. Technical communities are also sponsored by IEEE, and these are quick emerging technical areas. And these are just a few. And if you are interested in finding out more about these, again, you don't have to be a member of IEEE to participate in these, and you can look at IEEE.org, future directions, to find out more about these. So continuing education, IEEE has an extensive continuing education courses, mobile-friendly courses. We have an e-learning library with lots and lots of content. And more is added every year, including programs like cybersecurity, ethical hacking, 5G, digital transformation. So it has a fully functional LMS or learning management system with enhanced functionality and reporting capabilities that make it easy to find the courses you're looking for. So you can earn CEUs or PDUs, which can help maintain professional licenses if that's something. And some of these are very inexpensive, and there's sales that are offered. I think some of these are as low as $10 US. So one of the things I'm very happy about this year is we've had IEEE for many years has really focused on college students, young professionals, and then working engineers, and then retired engineers. The piece that was missing, even though we had this content at IEEE, was STEM. And STEM is something that I greatly, greatly care about. So started working last year, 2 years ago, before I was elected. Whether I got elected or not as president, I wanted to see this through, was a K through 12 STEM portal, and it's called Try Engineering. So this is a portal we launched this April. And I highly recommend, if you're interested in STEM, that you go look at this. It's for teachers, students, volunteers, and parents. And it has resources like lesson plans, games, career profiles to show potential young people how engineering and technology makes the world a better place. We also, this year, I was able to use some of my funds, because I'm not traveling, a grant initiative for teachers. So we have, what I've got on the screen here is also a really robust, this has been in the last 3 years, an educational talent development pipeline. So we're really covering sort of the entire life cycle of the technologist, which I'm really proud, because I said IEEE is there to mentor the technical professional. And we have come a long, long way from that ivory tower kind of IEEE mentality. IEEE should be there to mentor the technical professional along their career or lifetime pathway toward excellence. And that's really my vision for IEEE. So why should we have things like professional associations, centers for excellence? For those who create technology and who love how technologies empower us and improve our lives, that's why I support IEEE. The mission and vision of IEEE helps us shape the future of technology for the benefit of humanity, which is our mission. Technology is not an industry. It's a method of transforming the culture and economics of existing systems and institutions, regardless of gender. Technology is a great equalizer because of the application of intelligence to solve problems. Technology is not neutral. Its use changes our lives. The choices developers make have profound impacts on our privacy, security, and even our civil rights as users. Therefore, it's important that all developers be diverse and representative of the populations they're developing products for. The people creating technology are its influencers. And a lack of diverse ideas and representation could lead to further disparities between gender, race, and class. And community engagement is a powerful technology enabler, and that is what IEEE and associations like it facilitate through its collaborative membership networks and technical communities. So I hope I've been able to share a bit today about some of what IEEE offers. And I've only been able to touch briefly on the number of valuable benefits to the IEEE members who work in industry, academia, government, as well as companies who employ technical professionals. And whether it be through the application of the standards, connections made by partnering with IEEE, support received from IEEE's educational activities, or any of the other number of positive connections that might be provided, I hope that I've been able to show some tangible benefits, particularly for an individual relationship with IEEE, from partnering with this great organization. As I summarize, I just want to restate how important I have found my personal journey to be with IEEE. Be it the technical information, the personal contacts, or personal leadership development and personal growth that I have gained through my relationship, I would not be the same professional today without having met IEEE early in my career. If you're interested in finding out more, you can go to www.ieee.org. And I thank you so much today for the opportunity to speak. And it's, again, been an honor and a privilege.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for your beautiful portraying of your journey, starting from your childhood to your college, then profession, then to be introduced with IEEE. And it is the time, it reminds many of us that our time. But dear friends, today there is one good connection today with our president and speaker, which is from NASA, and her area is, computer science. Former, or rather the founding president of this chapter, Kolkata chapter, Professor Shankar Kumar Pal is present. Kathy, you already knew him, so he spent NASA and he's an eminent, internationally acclaimed scientist in your domain. So it would be very nice if Professor Pal shares some words based on your journey and to some extent his own experience.
Oh,
Professor Pal.
Thank you. I didn't expect it. It's my pleasure. Again, let me thank our boss, IEEE boss, and all panelists, distinguished faculty. Actually, my observation with IEEE is as follows. In fact, when we joined as a researcher in 75, that time there was one IEEE, EEE. So IEEE means Institute of Engineers. IEEE means Institute of Electrical Engineers. That is from UK, and IEEE means electrical and electronics from USA. So we used to make joke whether how many E's are there. So we are thinking that whether there will be another E or not. I'm just talking about in 1975 when in Calcutta we do not have that IEEE math, IEEE flavor or any activity practically. So we are not just follower of anybody. So and also look at this. Electrical and electronics. I have a PhD in electronics. I have a PhD in electrical engineering. So if you see that I am very much embedded in IEEE, electrical and electrical engineering. My journey and association started in 1977 when my first publication in IEEE Systems Banner Cybernetics. came out. And then I became member in 81 when I was studying at Imperial College London. Then 84 as senior member, and then 93 IEEE Fellow. And at that time, we have around only 10 or 12 IEEE transactions, but now you see more than 200 citations, 200 these transactions, journal papers, everything. Now, IEEE to me, it's like a quality. IEEE is quality. In any award committee, anywhere we go, we usually ask the first question often, how many IEEE transaction paper you have? And then comes that, which transactions you have? And I have seen when I was visiting in Asia Pacific as IEEE distinguished visitor since 97, IEEE fellowship is like a visa. So if you are IEEE fellow, you get very respect in Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, all those places. In Calcutta, we did not have that respect that time. Now also in our science academies, they do not pay much respect to IEEE fellow. But to me, in those regions when we taste on, IEEE means quality. IEEE, any achievement IEEE is in your pocket wallet. Now, if you look at this now, over the years, journals have increased a lot, and also number of societies I see now 39. So obviously, when the number increases, you cannot keep the quality standard on. So and similarly, all the societies also, their fellowship grade, election, everything, they are not equally of standard. So that's what I first realized about 15 years back when Professor Presided, with which name you have instituted a medal I saw in SMC Society. He has passed away 3 years back. He told me when he visited our institute as a director for receiving honorary degree, he said, IEEE fellow fellowship is just no more prestigious nowadays. They have diluted so much. So anyway, so my request to our IEEE boss that please look at this issue. Yeah, because IEEE is the largest professional body. We all love to be associated with it. And we all tell our students, first of all, that why don't you get involved in IEEE? It's not necessarily that you have to be a chairman or something on. I was just never, I was offered some chairman position. No. You get involved in publication. You get in the editorial board and everything. So this one, I have a very pleasant experience since 1977 in just different academic area. And I consider that every young engineers, young students in electrical sciences, they should be associated with IEEE because any kind of achievement one, keep it in your pocket. This is like a credit card. If you have a credit card, you are just safe to travel any part of the world. So that's what I consider. So thank you very much. You have taken accepted our invitation. And then Debatosh requested me to say a few words. I can say half an hour about IEEE because my long experience, not as an administrator, but as how did I get involved in the first
So thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So if I could just respond briefly.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your comments. I do want to say that I did appoint an IEEE presidential ad hoc this year to look at the fellows process. There are challenges with the fellows process, particularly for those in industry. So I hope to hear in November what recommendations they're coming forward with. I share your disappointment with some of the fellows. We do have challenges when elevating people from industry and government. The second is student members. Last November, I brought forward a motion to cut the student membership in half. It's about $10 or $12 for students to join IEEE right now. That will be continued in November. We're bringing a motion forward to continue that reduction in student membership. So encourage students to join. There's a discount code that they can find on the web. It's everywhere right now. The other is that if people are looking to volunteer, we have a volunteer portal. So they can go to the IEEE website, do a search. There's a search bar on the upper right, for volunteering, and they'll see the volunteering portal, and they just look on that volunteering portal, and all kinds of opportunities will come up for them if they are interested in becoming a volunteer. So we've tried to make it, I've listened. We do surveys of our members, and I've tried to respond to figuring, they want us to help them with their careers. They want to find ways to volunteer, and there are other things, but I'm trying to listen to fulfilling the needs of our members.
Thank you.
So well, before we conclude, I just I have a small question. Before going to my question, I just tell the audience, the interested students, volunteers, so you can understand that to catch a president of IEEE, it is not a very easy task. So in this connection, I mentioned I express my thanks to two of your staff, one Kelly Majanaski and Liz McCarthy. So they contributed and they were in touch with me. So in this connection, just one small question as a president, how did you enjoy your last few months, and you'll have to enjoy again 3-4 months ahead, that connecting different parts of globe, and it is one of your duties or responsibilities, right, during this 1 year. So how did you manage, and how did you enjoy this one?
So I really COVID is a blessing and a curse. So I really appreciate the fact that we're being forced to do everything remotely, because it has allowed me to reach out to so many more of our members and to say yes. Now I would have said yes to you guys and figured out a way, but in the past, if you said, well, let's do this remotely via web, people would be offended. But now with COVID, it's really the standard. And I try to say yes to everything. Now, there are opportunities where people will say, President Land, we want you to do a webinar at 3:00 in the morning. And I can't do that because I'm working full time still. I still have a full-time job because I've always had when I was vice president of technical activities, when I was computer society president, I always kept my full-time job, because you should not have to be retired. You should be able to juggle it all. I mean, I just believe in that. But because we need to get some of the best and brightest. I'm not saying I'm the best and brightest. I'm not, but you shouldn't have to be retired. We should be able to do it. But I can talk to a chapter in Jamaica in the morning, a chapter in India in the evening, but there are limits. I can't talk to somebody in 3:00 in the morning. But what's great is that when I was VP of Technical Activities, I didn't travel. I did things remotely because I saved my budget, there was no reason for me to travel. I wasn't campaigning or anything. But I used that budget to do grant proposals, solicited grant proposals for improvements to technical activities. So there are times when it's appropriate to travel. There are times when it's not appropriate to travel. But as president, it's a privilege. If you notice that chart where I had the org structure of IEEE, the members are on top. And I think that I strongly believe that the position of president is just another volunteer opportunity. Right? The president is no different than any other volunteer. I'm just elected by the members, and it's a privilege. And, people that have this position are so fortunate. And if a member asks me to speak, or if INAE asks me to speak, what a privilege. I hope I did a good job. I hope you heard what you wanted to hear. If not, ask me back, I'll try to do better. That's all I can say. But it's I think it's a great opportunity. And I do a lot of talks on to students. I'm trying to leverage this platform to be as inspirational as possible. And I also do a lot of talks on diversity and inclusion, not the kind of talk you think. The kind of talk I do on diversity and inclusion is IEEE is a global organization, and we need to be inclusive to our global membership. That is why I established a diversity and inclusion committee when I was VP of TAB, and that's why we have ongoing activities at the IEEE level. We were too US centric. We have implicit biases in our materials that exclude our members in regions 8, 9, and 10, which are those outside of US and Canada. And we need to take metrics. We need to look at who's sitting on our committees, and we need to look around and see faces that don't look like me. So it's very important that we pay attention and that we not only have a diverse membership, that we are inclusive.
So thank you again for managing, for giving time from your busy schedule and maintaining exactly our time, our slot, convenient for us, and on the very special day for the Indian engineers. Thank you, Susan, for your great gesture and participation in INAE program. So we shall look forward to having you in our city in India as IEEE president, or maybe as IEEE past president. Thank you.